Okay, that was crazy. All right, hello everybody. I'll wait for start again. I don't want to blow your eardrums out.
Oh, that's okay. You go right.
Okay. Hello everybody. Welcome to Helicon West. I am your MC. My name is Naomi Kim, and our featured readers tonight are a poetry group I've been part of since its birth, Union of Table Scraps, so that'll be fun. So let me do the whole script thingy to make sure I get it all. Alrighty. Helicon West is an uncensored public reading series. We host published authors and community writers to showcase all levels of skill and craft. We welcome open mic readers. We welcome donations to keep Helicon West going. You'll find a sign-up sheet for open mic and bookmarks with a QR code back there, except you won't because it's right here. Anyway, so that was a lie. I've already lied to you guys. Yay! No, it's so sad. Okay. Anywho, there is still coffee, decaf coffee in the back. It's Cafe Ibis, and the QR codes, I'm assuming, are back there. I can't see that far. All right. Okay, if you do enjoy the coffee, please make sure it's covered because the library carpet is new and they will probably get really mad. And they say there's no basement in this building, but there probably is. And people who spill coffee on the carpet probably go there. All right, so be careful of that.
Library hell.
Joseph knows all about that. Joseph has the keys, so we're all good. Okay. All right. Helicon West humbly acknowledges that we are here on the territory of the northwestern band of the Shoshone Nation. We are grateful to our sponsors and partners, Sugar House Review, the Logan Library, the USU English Department, Cafe Ibis, and many community volunteers. This is the part where I usually honor Star, the patron goddess of Helicon West. Thank you. And for information, interviews, and more, I think they still sell merch too, visit heliconwest.wordpress.com. A special request, during our event, please keep the doors closed. I'm going to pause here at that because these doors are really loud and sometimes people have to leave, so don't feel bad. Like, it's going to be loud, don't be embarrassed. Just, people are clapping, you try and leave as quiet as possible, but it's going to be loud. Don't feel bad. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's the thing. Now we get started. Union of Table Scraps is a poetry critique group that was formed in 2021. A lot of things happened during COVID, and one of the things that happened is that the long-running poetry group, Poetry at 3, ended, and then from the ashes of that, Brock, the chair, sent me an email and said, hey guys, let's start a group. He sent me like 50 names, and some of them were very bizarre. I wish I could remember them. There were some weird ones. And he's like, just pick one. And so it took a while. I weeded it out, and I'm like, I like Union of Table Scraps. And the reason I went with it is because Poetry at 3, that was the entree. That was the classy, that was the classy dinner. And then from that, you had the doggy bag. That was us, Union of Table Scraps, right? So here we are, and we're totally awesome. We have been larger. We've lost members as they've moved away, which happens. And so now there's 5 of us, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to introduce us one at a time, and then they'll read and whatever. Anyway, aren't I great? I'm such a pro. Anyway, okay, here we go. Our first reader is Isaac Tim. I've known Isaac since 1998, I think. He's super awesome. He started writing poetry. So, Isaac's poetry style is really, he writes a lot about growing up in the West Desert, so he uses a lot of nature imagery and metaphor and simile in his poetry, and he's just awesome. So, Here is Isaac Tim.
Back in the parallel park.
This is my favorite part of your reading, by the way, is the
Is it?
anticipation. Yeah. I missed it.
Yeah. The participation.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I had to find the magic button. Boom, 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 boom. Hello, folks. All right, I think we're good. I don't know, I've got to read. Can everyone hear me, or?
Yeah.
Everything good?
Yeah.
All right. Haunted Jubilee. And here's an epigraph. Deep in my heart, there is a house that can hold just about all of you. Mark Bowen. The ghosts make a home in my heart. I am not frightened. I do not lock the doors, but instead clear a space for dancing. Set up banquet tables. Make sure they're sturdy. Then I string lights around the orchard, drape and wrap them among the gnarled branches until they are thousands of burning stars swinging in the cool autumn breeze. I lay tables with lace of linen, burden the white cloth with food and drink, green apples, weeping dew, pomegranate seeds, glittering hearts of red, blushing pink grapes and currants, purple and heavy as velvet. I bring out my ringing crystal bowls, fill them with crimson wine and clear twinkling sun tea, arrange steins for beer the color of barley, stack small glasses of honey for honey gold whiskey. I hire a band, let strings of guitars and mandolins vibrate in harmony with shrilling fiddles, the tin strum of banjos. I have the troubadours dressed in silk bandanas and leather belts with silver buckles. Let them plead their songs to the night. It will be a joyful rattle, a jubilee. I call the ghosts. Let them leave their dusty rooms, float from cobweb rafters, wearing their Sunday finest. Their boots shine and their felt hats are clean and crisp. I let them strut, caper and laugh. Let them tell their dirtiest jokes, expand their most unbelievable stories to bursting. I embrace the ghost I loved, even though it aches. Fill their heart against my chest, their loving breath. I party with my ghosts until dawn, then watch them go, looking at their watches, the fire-orange sunrise, smiling sadly, saying, well, look at the time. I take all their farewells, their hugs, their handshakes. I smile, weep at their loss. I do not worry about cleanup. All the debris will fade in the new light. I raise my face to the morning. Let it carry me forward. The plea. Moonbeam, tell me I'm luminous. Tell me I'm not alone. Tell me someone carries my memory like a lantern. Moonbeam, find me in darkness. Find me worthy of remembrance. Make me a communion of light and shadow dancing. Embrace body to body, warmth against a desert night. Moonbeam, hold me suspended in this moment, where I'm floating as in water, casting a shadow like a raven or an owl over this shimmering mica path. California. Very different from here. It's the Pacific Northwest amongst the redwoods. So that's kind of the setting. It's foggy and redwoods coming up right up to the shore. And this was one of my favorite places. Moonstone Beach, dusk. The little river cuts through the beach cleanly, as if a child's hand had created a moat for a sandcastle. There is no sound other than the surf striking the headland, the great heavy Pacific. There is no sound other than the surf striking the headland, the great heavy Pacific, moving the ground in and out, the breath of the earth up through my feet, into my heart and lungs. There are few people. A couple are rolling up a blanket in the shadow of a pile of boulders at the center of the beach. In the tidal bore, 2 black Labradors chase a wave of fresh water being pushed back up the river. Their frisky barks echo briefly over the drone of the tide. The sky is heavy with fat November clouds. To the south, fog buries the grassy locks of dunes. It's good to feel small here. My feet are not marking the compacted, wet sand. My stress, my fear, failure, or success means nothing to the ocean. A pelican, alien, flying top-heavy, its yellow flag bill a rudder, a traffic of circling gulls squawk, but still part before it. Suddenly, its wings scissor in and it dives, disappearing in the sea spray, and is lost in the fog, sometimes not knowing the outcome is best. One of the labs interrupts. He's carrying a branch of driftwood twice as long as he is. His head is held high as his prize plows a trench behind him. His wet, wagging tail slaps against my leg as he passes. Joey Heatherton, dancing for the USO Mekong Delta, 1969. In my father's Fogo album. Okay, photo and album was apparently hard to say together. All right. In my father's photo album, Joey Heatherton is a ghost of movement in sequins. One muscled dancer's hip forward, her hair feathered like a bird, snake scales, an Egyptian goddess, her eyes, her lips, diamonds. She moves in a sea of green, young soldiers of the 9th Cavalry, everything in Vietnam, a Kodachrome green, blades of choppers, the tents and palm trees haunting the background. She dances in frame after frame, her short skirt flaring out. She is a sexual sphinx, her lipstick pink glitter, her stage makeup thick as a death mask. Under her long lashes she is coy, professionally cold like any goddess. Then she is looking down at my father, startled. Eyes large, lips parted, mid-intake of breath. My father's flash right at her feet, a smudge of footlight in the corner. Then she is in retreat, her muscular calf raised in a back kick, her skirt flaring up, a peek at her ass, well worth a night in the brig. What I know of the night. Walk with me when the moon turns the desert luminous, when all the gravel roads that by day are rutted and dusty now glimmer paths of moon stuff. Trees once nude and struggling to survive the brutal blue sky, now shadowy giants reaching to grasp the neon arc of galaxies. Dance with me in the shadow of owls. The gleaming dime eyes of bobcats and badgers will be our only witnesses. Strip naked and dive into the water, cold and ancient, pumped from deep in the earth, clear and pure. Let it wrap your body, and I will wrap you into me, arms and legs, like the dark vines that embrace the fence at the water's edge. It's a world of diamonds and deep velvet greens and blues, and the moon, pitted and bruised, smiles down at us, two silverfish under the ripple, casting our faces upward, watching her cross the sky.
Rad, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all are really excited that you came here tonight. All right. By the way, just want to thank you all for being here. It looks like a pretty good crowd out there, so awesome. All right. So I've emceed for a unit of Table Scraps every year that we've been featured readers, and some years I do the whole traditional, discography of their accomplishments, whatever. So I decided to do something a little different. And just to celebrate this group that I'm very, very honored to be a part of. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that. So I've had the privilege of meeting with some really amazing poets weekly for like 4 years now. And I've gotten to know them, and they're awesome, and they consider me a friend, which is weird, but awesome. Right? It's like such an honor, because these are like highly educated, uber awesome people. So anyway, our next reader is Shannon Ballum, and I know y'all probably know Shannon, but I wanted to highlight everybody's kind of poetry style, or how I view their poetry style as being a member of the group. So this could go bad. It could be awesome though. Anyway, so Shannon has this amazing ability to use color in poetry. And so the color that she uses becomes a character of the poem, but it also becomes and conveys meaning and mystery and all kinds of awesomeness. So Shannon's just rad as hell. So here is Shannon Ballum.
All right. Thank you, Naomi, for that amazing introduction. And thank you, Isaac. I'm so happy to be in a group with you. I have 5 poems, and they're all about my stroke. So this first one is called The Egg. The egg. The first time I tried to crack an egg after the stroke, I smashed its brown shell too hard against the rim of the red ceramic bowl. I stared at the cold egg yolk slime dripping down my stunned hand. And this one's called, I have several poems called The Stroke, so I'm going to read 2 of them tonight. The Stroke. The stroke walks me across orange desert sand. Prince's plume bloom like gold torches. Desert varnish paints the rocks shiny black. My mouth is dry. Warm evening air softly holds my body. The stroke has to show me something. He can barely contain his giddiness. He prances ahead, turning ecstatic circles. He is contagious. I'm excited too. He disappears. I call and call, but he's nowhere, nowhere. I'm nothing. I feel nothing. I am nothing. A sudden red-brown explosion on the horizon, billowing. Its updraft sucks up sand, stones, cacti in slow motion. The sky chokes on a white mushroom cloud. I watch as the ground swells, surges, closer, closer. I can't escape. Alone, standing in the cold desert, in the cold hospital room, I watch the MRI of the stroke devastating my brain, eating my brain, the entire left hemisphere. The white roar rushes. I'm blasted. I land hard on my back. Suddenly I am deaf. My ears leak blood. I'm dumbstruck. My lips blister. My skin melts like gold. This one's also called The Stroke. The stroke is a rat, all fizzy white whiskers and a naked scaled tail. He slipped up behind me when I was 46 and stole half my body, left me helpless, mute, paralyzed, conscious. I was crumpled on the bathroom floor in my plush pink bathrobe. I looked at the foreign arm that was attached to my body. I knew it could not belong to me. I heard the stroke mewling in my ear, not to be afraid. I was in no pain. I never cried. Now the stroke is with me, like a balloon trapped on the ceiling, bobbing its airy head, always watching me. It's like a second heart beating its bloody fist against my ribs. It's like a sticky shadow clinging. I see it now as I'm writing this poem. It casts its ghost over my notebook. The stroke is the ticking guts of a rat bomb. In the dream, I can walk and spin and dance, but I have a shadow tail growing out of my back like an arm. I spin and spin in the bright bathroom, see the pink robe flash by in the mirror over and over. The arm is hairless, like my dead brother's. The words are clear in my head, but when I open my mouth, nothing falls out. The rat bomb explodes. Its flash blinds me with pink intestines and stars of white whiskers. Now I have become the rat, and I drag my heavy tail down the haunted, shadowed hall. This one's called Nothing Lasts, and I only have two poems left. Nothing lasts. The cold wind blasts my face. I know it won't last. The effects of the stroke, I have to believe. The teal river slides into the distance. Nothing is permanent. Not the crimson snapdragons in the garden or the gold coreopsis glowing like little suns, nor the busy chatter of the slate blue kingfisher. Not the blushed underside of clouds at sunrise, or the surprise purple pansies that began to grow in December on the patio. They withered near mid-January, but they are beginning to grow again, this time two in one pot. I hope they come back. I hope they do. I hope the feeling in my foot comes back, but I don't think it will. When I touch it, it feels like empty space between stars. It feels fuzzy like snow, like static. Not much gets through. I can feel light scratching. It's so hard to explain. I don't always know where it is in space. It's often in a place where I didn't think it would be. Maybe it's trying to escape. It's so sick of being a part of my body. I try not to focus on what I don't have. I try to immerse myself in nature. I watch the brown river rippling and twisting, the exquisite red branches of trees. It snowed from a steel sky, but the sun shone on one white horse, making it glow in the center of the field. And this is my last poem. It's called Carrying. Carrying. Terrified to lose her, I haul my old self on my back for 3 whole years. She used to whisper, "Go, go, go, but then she was suddenly silent. Like Orpheus, I didn't want to look for fear she would disappear. I carried her through damp dark, past trees spooked blue. I hauled her through the inky river. When I could no longer touch the silky silt with my feet, her weight nearly dragged me under. I gulped for air, kicked madly with my one good leg. She nearly drowned me. I got a whiff of something rotten. I felt my heart break. I shrugged her off my back and she slumped in a gray pile at my feet. Her face was bloated. She was dead. It was time to let her go. I gazed hard at her one last time, memorized her hair and face and nose. I realized she is no longer me. I turn away to step into the gold light of my future. I am free.
Thank you, Shannon. I love that poem. That's one of my favorites. It's just, oh, damn. I have to get up and MC after that. And you guys, I'm just like, I want to just like live in the poems for a while and just sit there and be like, oh my God. Anyway, okay, so our next reader is Star Colebrook. So I forget when, because my memory's not great, but at some point, Star was like, you guys are okay. I'll come summit with you guys for a while. So she joined our group, which is really, really cool. Because, I mean, she's the patron saint of Helicon. If she wants to join your group, you're like, hell yeah. All right, so yeah. Anyway, Star is amazing at telling stories. And she writes a lot about rural childhood. And she writes in a way that makes you feel like these were your memories, this was your childhood. You really find yourself getting lost in the stories that she tells in her poems. And lately she's been going through old journals and, you know, kind of reworking and retooling poems that she wrote 20 years ago. And it's really, really freaking cool to see how her style has grown and see her have a little bit of a goth side. It's kind of cool. Yeah, she's got a goth side, y'all. You may not have known that, but she does, and it's pretty rad. So, Star Colebrook.
Thank you, Naomi. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Shannon and Isaac. Hi. Yeah, I'm in this poetry group with them, but and every time I hear their poems, yeah, it's like tonight. It was amazing, huh? So, I hope you will read the current dystopian political morass into these poems I'm sharing with you this evening. They include women and girls, climate change, home and family planning, and cats, which serve as metaphors for everything else. I have 6 poems. Pattern, girls in 4-H. Tissue thin paper patterns, instructions inked in blue, each one waiting for meaning. For the leader of the club to show us how she cuts and fits and pins paper over fabric. We're the fabric, we girls, 8 years old, making aprons. We aspire to be aprons, to be made into grown-ups, measured, cut, sewn, and ironed into place. By the way, don't clap after these poems. You can clap when I'm done. I have 6 of them, so there's 5 to go. Speculum. What you can't see Even with a reverse clamp that opens the view to the eye is what's inside the inside. That's where further viewing through other equipment like sound waves, for instance, or magnetic resonance might come in handy. Even then, those in charge of the technology are not supposed to say what they see. Later the doctor will say, it's the size of a lemon, the size of a grapefruit. If you were a man, he'd say baseball or softball, and there wouldn't be a speculum. Anecdotal evidence in medicine says women respond to size calculations as fruit, that men equate growth size to sports. But the inside of a woman is more mysterious than what's in a man, and you can't see how the man impacts what's lying there on the table, open to speculation, unless you are the woman, spread-eagled, steel clamp, holding you open to whoever can see or can't, as the case may be. 0 in December. I think of power failure when it gets this cold, water lines breaking, house flooding, then icing, then walls growing mold, house dogs and house cats balled up together in a pet bed in a corner, house plants black and drooping, and no matter how I bundle in layers, the cold penetrates, frost on my breath, smelling dank, no water for mouth care or hair care or washing, food storage rotted and gone, organs in gradual shutdown, eventual death, swelling, bursting, the seepage also freezing. And I always think it would be better if no one survived for the thaw. Dream of the lost family home. A foreign family had rented the house. Toys in the lane, a worn-down lawn, too many cars, and the front door was no longer ours to enter through. I pretended I was happy, saying hello and making a big production of welcoming them, smiling at the children, taking my things around back. I realized there would be no getting in. Every piece of furniture, the family books, all mother's dishes, pots and pans and bedding and linen were theirs now. I turned to go, and there they were, aiming a gun at the big red and brown dog in Topsy the llama's pasture. They shot it before I could say, wait. Mother said, it's been here before. It's a friend to Topsy. Then the silhouettes of dark mourners lifted the bear-like shaggy form and carried it away. 2 more. The cat. Required to shore up the beams underneath the house before the loan would go through, we discovered a dead cat in the crawl space. Forming up the cement under the beams, my partner set his hand down on the flat, dried carcass. He pulled it up out of the dirt and brought it out along the old concrete steps through the half-wall furnace room to the kitchen. He said, look what I found. We took it out to the backyard and buried it next to the fence, set a large purple rock on top of the grave. A few days later, the cat turned up in our neighbor's yard. The 8-year-old called out to us over the fence in excitement. We find the darndest things in our garden. We even found a dead cat. Over the summer and into the fall, the ghost cat kept turning up in the flower beds by the woodpile, on the brick path along the back of the house. We couldn't rebury it. Every time we went for the shovel, it was gone. The next day or week, it would appear somewhere else, the garden shed, the porch step. We never saw it inside the house, only outside. One day in late fall, the former owners paid a visit, said they appreciated our care of the old place, the new roof and fresh paint, the lawn and flowers, They said, "This old house was falling down around our mother's ears. We were afraid it would start on fire. The wiring was so bad. The day she told us her cat got electrocuted, we called the electrician and had it rewired. We thought, oh, that explains it. And that cat still won't stay buried." Last poem. Undeserved. I was cleaning a bookshelf of knickknacks, standing on a ladder to reach all the things that needed dusting, when my sweetheart came home and told me I would have to leave. I asked if he had found someone else, and he said yes. He had known her for 2 weeks. He said I could stay over the weekend, but he needed me out by Monday. It was Friday. I knew I would have to find a place to live and would have to leave everything I had, the house and all that I loved, because it was his. I had to tell my kids. They didn't believe me at first, but then they did and were calm about it, not sad the way I was. I was so sad as time went on. I felt that I would die of it. If only I could stop everything and cry, break down into a melted heap of sobbing on the pavement. But I held off because I had to be brave. After all, that's the way it goes sometimes. You get the life you want, and it walks away from you in the middle of your happiness as if it hadn't been deserved. Then the cats opened the accordion door and it woke me up. Let's all keep waking up.
All right. Now, our final reader before me is Brock the Chair. Brock is cool because he's sort of a mystery. You look at him and maybe you think I don't know, I was intimidated by him when I first joined the group. I was part of Poetry at 3 for a while, before it shut down, and I was like, how can I critique a guy who's like a teacher? Like, I'm not gonna, I was always worried I wouldn't understand, and I'd give I'd say really dumb things. But anyway, he's actually pretty funny and pretty irreverent, and he has a couple of things in common with Walt Whitman. My favorite is that Elizabeth Bishop would be awfully mad at Brock as well, because he writes about things like dog poop and hand jobs, and I don't think Elizabeth Bishop would approve. But inside of these irreverent poems, he also is amazing at capturing that feeling of being a young man, and that feeling of excitement about growing older, but also that guilt and shame that our society teaches us to feel, and teaches young men to feel. So, I don't know, he's just really great at doing all of these things, at talking about irreverent things, but also making it really deep. And anyway, so, Brock the Chair.
Thanks, Naomi. There's no way I can live up to that. I've got 3 essays here that masquerade as poems. And the first is a rant, and then there's a patriotic poem because it's about George Washington, and we just had his birthday. And then I guess the last one is kind of a how-to. So, context for this first one, as you're well aware, the Republicans have created a fantasy world based on denial of all sorts of things, most importantly climate change, but also race, racism. They want to pretend as though there's no racism in the U.S., and never has been. And slavery wasn't so bad after all. So this is my response to that. How I discovered the racism within. No, this isn't going to be woke self-flagellation because my distant relative owns Sojourner Truth, which is true, or because I spent my career at 4 very white universities. It's all about music, actually. The music we're drawn to can tell us things about ourselves we don't necessarily want to know. 11, when the Beatles hit America, I became a huge fan, knew most of the songs by heart, began playing them on the guitar, and had only one caveat, raving to a schoolmate about introducing the Beatles, the album. I admitted that the last song on that album wasn't for me, but for that kind of person. The Beatles learned the song, Twist and Shout, from the Isleys, black brothers from Cincinnati, and though it was written by two white guys, it was easily the most soulful, the most driven, the blackest song from the first two albums. I wouldn't have admitted it at the time, but what I meant by that kind of person was black people. I would have denied my racism in 1964. There weren't any black kids in my grade at school, but I was prepared to be nice if one showed up. It didn't occur to me that I was fundamentally racist and that racism influenced my musical taste until I was in my 20s, listening to the Jerry Garcia band, particularly enjoying Jerry's rendition of How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. Whose song is that? Where do I know that song from? Gotta be Motown, right? Marvin Gaye, 1964. I was a radio rat in 64 and must have heard the song 100 times. Why didn't I recognize its greatness? Listening to the original as an adult, I understand why Jerry and so many others covered the song. Marvin's version is amazing, so smooth. Why hadn't I appreciated it as a 12-year-old? I wasn't that kind of person. I learned my lesson fairly young and taught it to my students, quote, "Our society is so deeply racist, it's impossible to grow up in it without being racist," unquote. Unfortunately, you can't escape racism just by recognizing it. I thought I'd learned my lesson when rap came along. I gave it extra room because it was black and different, and I actively dug some of the early stuff like the breaks. But the music soon left me behind, unlike white punk, which came along at the same time and seemed equally laughable at first, but became my genre of choice. So what have I gained from understanding and accepting that deep in my being I react against blackness? I know if I care about fighting racism, I need to start at home. I try to avoid making stupid generalizations, rap is this and hip-hop does that. I say I don't get it rather than it sucks. I'm not wary of discussing race and privilege because I know who I'm trying to be in the present and don't try to defend the racism of the past, mine or anyone else's. Am I ashamed? I'll quote Frank Zappa. I'm not black, but there's a whole lot of times I wish I could say I'm not white. So this is next one is a response to one of Shannon's prompts about taking an inanimate object in a famous story and speaking through that. So this is The Cherry Tree Speaks. What did I ever do to you, George? You with your little hatchet chopping at me, my trunk, my life. Did you do it just to watch the chips fly? Or to piss off your father who planted me and no doubt looked forward to popping my cherries into his mouth and his declining ears? Oh, I know I had my faults. I oozed grody sap unaccountably, and the tent caterpillars loved my leaves and made a mess. But if I'd been given a chance to mature, my fruit for love-mad maids and swains, my wood for queens' thrones, and oh lordy, the smell of my pink blossoms in spring. But wait, young Georgie didn't. Everyone knows my story because the mythic George Washington owned up, or maybe covered up for something else, and Daddy Augustine bought it, and so have teachers and at least a few students over the centuries. Honesty, integrity, responsibility. With the help of that story, Americans have spent centuries chopping down the forest, killing its critters, asking questions only when it's too late. We have mimicked George's action, not his contrition. Maybe we should turn the story on its head, tell it as a tale of environmental destruction. A casual confession seems a small thing to celebrate for all these years, but it remains an instructive story. As a people, we're still waiting to take that first step and own up. And this is called The Horizontal Closet. This is a new one. Left alone, many things find their way to a stasis, an equilibrium, a place that seems inevitable. Water finds the lowest spot, gas expands to fill the room, language has become simpler, less redundant, and clothes find their way to the horizontal closet. For most people, a closet is something you stand in front of, or maybe walk into if you're rich, and sigh and try to get the recalcitrant hangers to move along the rod so you have some hope of finding whatever it was you thought you might want to wear. With a horizontal closet, I know exactly where my important clothes are, on the floor, and a quick glance tells me which pile is most likely. Uptight Puritan grad grind naysayers will complain in their dainty voices, "Oh, but don't you have to step on one garment to access another?" And "I'm sure the cockroaches like the little dens you make for them." And "Oh, that's how you get that lived-in look." Jealousy can be ugly. Such wet blankets would love to come home from work, crumple suit up, throw it into the far corner, and slip into the plush purple robe the dog has been keeping warm on the floor. No fighting with modern hangers with those annoying little gotcha shoulders, No having to face the reality that you have enough clothes to keep Altoona warm. And shouldn't you do something about it, like maybe give most of them away to the Altoonese? It's true that if you live in a very small space, you'll need to practice the additional art of layering. But keep in mind the adaptability of floor space. The bathtub is a fine extension of the floor, and with layering can hold 6 weeks of fresh clothes. Don't forget under the bed. Vacuum it once a year, and it's clean as a freshly rinsed toilet. And of course, now that you don't need all that vertical space in the closet, you can use its floor. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Your final poet is me. I'm Naomi. I'm not going to try and dissect my style of poetry because I don't know how. I don't know. I try. Does that count? Okay. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to be kind of annoying, but I'm going to try not to. I can't help it. Okay, so I have a couple poems, and one's on my phone. Anyway, it's going to be a pain. Okay, this first poem is about Isaac, that guy. So anyway, here you go. It's called Open Mic. The MC calls your name. Isaac is the third reader. My brain freezes. I fully expect to hear the whisk of your wheelchair's tires, the whir of the scissor lift as you rise up to the microphone. I hear your voice so clearly, the rhythm and cadence that is Isaac. When a stranger stands at the podium, begins reading, I am shocked by a rush of sudden tears. Missing you, I write a poem. And I forgot to print this out, and so I apologize. But I want to read it because it's about a really good friend of mine who was a member of Unit of Table Scraps until he moved to Ogden. Boo. Anyway, he's a really good guy. He's one of the best people I have ever met. And in spite of, see, this is me, Naomi the reader, not Naomi the MC, so I get to speak my piece right now. In spite of what this ridiculous bullshit administration would say, trans men are men and trans women are women. So fuck Donald Trump and fuck Elon Musk and fuck anybody else who thinks that trans people are not people. Fuck you. Okay. This poem is about a trans man who is the kindest person I have ever known. What family is for Asher. When I cried, overwhelmed with the new decline, the lift and shower chair, which meant Isaac would be safer, yet meant that he had stood upright for the last time. It was Asher who held me together. The same friend who bought Isaac a soft cat blanket, a soda koozie in the shape of a brown winter coat. Sorry, guys. Helps me plan his end-of-life celebration, has favorite Isaac poems, holds space for Isaac and his thoughts, actively loves him. Okay. I can't say I've never cried at Helicon because I cry every time Isaac's not here now, which is stupid, but I blame him. It's his fault. Okay. All right. This next poem is about it's about an executive, a mass murderer who was shot in New York by who I think is a hero. So anyway, it's called Shameful. Every dollar you made came from pain. Not yours, of course. Every meal you ate, every hooker you paid, your wife's car, the wedding, the house, private school tuition for the kids who will take over the family business someday. All of it came from pain. Death. You are soaked in the blood of mothers, fathers, children, each claim denied, surgery postponed, physical therapy session deemed not medically necessary. Each time you withheld life-saving drugs, you grew in stature, gave yourself a bonus. Did you think about those children? Did their ghosts haunt your dreams, keep you from sleeping, or force you to drink? More likely you saw them as dandelion fluff, something floating in the air, briefly catching the light, and then gone. This next poem is, it's based on, I have a couple poems based on things I learned in therapy, so this is, yeah, anyway. It's called Radical Acceptance. Radical acceptance is knowing that I will never see pictures from my vow renewal because they were taken by a woman I barely know, a brother-in-law's girlfriend whom I met only twice. In the 60 seconds it took for me to grab my phone, she had gathered my friends, taken the pictures herself, not bothering with how she would send them to me, never thinking that I may have wanted to take my own friends' pictures. This woman wasn't supposed to be here, is only here because my husband's father died. My husband, the good son, invited his brothers, wanted to connect, rekindle, bond with them. It's being okay with not being confirmed secretary, the position I applied for. The same position I was promised just 28 days before because the president of a nonprofit, I'm going to stop here and tell you, the nonprofit is Friends of the Logan Library, so. Let's see. Because the president of the Friends of the Logan Library thought that I couldn't handle the computer stuff, quote unquote. Never mind my 2 degrees, as well as my 10 years experience as, wait for it, secretary in a nonprofit. It is biting my tongue when someone tells me, I knew they were going to stick, when someone tells me I am brave or inspiring for leaving my house, attempting to participate in a normal activity, when all I want to do is scream, I just rode a bus for fuck's sake. So much about life is unfair. I have to let it go. Or I will shake and scream with rage, light fires, break windows, or drink, like my mother does, like her mother did, like her grandmother did. And I'm going to end on a lighter note. This poem is about, it's about Helicon. You'll understand in a bit. It's called Helicon Nightmares. 1. The room is packed, standing room only. Stage lights point down from the ceiling, white, yellow, and blue, bathing the small podium in the room's only light. I am the MC. Star hands me the sign-up sheet. This one is all open mic. The clipboard holds 10 college-ruled sheets of notebook paper, filled up front and back. I call the crowd to order, look down for the first 3 names. They are all tiny, tiny and cursive. 2. We are in a small classroom. The lights are off except for the one light by the door, the one that is on all the time. Desks are arranged in a large U. I'm not the MC. Tim Keller is. He has just called my name, only I didn't sign up for open mic. I stand in the center of the room. I am going to wing it. Tell a funny story about middle school gym class. I begin, not well. Isaac shouts out that I should sit down. This is a terrible idea. Yet I keep going. Oh, sorry. What happened to my... Oh, pages stuck together again. Okay, here we go. Almost every person is ignoring me, and then 6 jocks push me aside. They have the room reserved for arm wrestling practice. And 3. It is the 25th anniversary of Helicon. We have rented a theater for an all-open mic. Tim Keller is MC, and everyone is here. I grab the peach-colored sign-up sheets. I struggle to write my name, Naomi. The A is all messed up because the pen isn't working. Next to the box from my name is one that says category. The person above me has written drama. By state law, I have to put down something, trauma or rape, something that tells the listener what I am going to talk about. I leave it blank. Taking my seat in the balcony, I watch as the person sitting next to me eats a plate of chili and cornbread casserole. It looks good. Thank you very much again for coming out tonight. One more quick round of applause for Union of Table Okay, we are going to move into the open mic, and I'm going to go grab the thing. Let me explain it first, and then, okay. So if you've been here before, you know how open mic works. 7 minutes, your own original work, or if you have a husband who lets you read his poems, you can do that. I've done that before. If you don't want to be recorded, give Joseph some kind of signal or woot or something. Otherwise, you'll be on YouTube. And yeah, I think that's it. I announced them 3 at a time. Hopefully you can read them. Okay, here we go. And if you want to sign up, come up and do it, whatever. Okay, here we go. We're going to move into the open mic. Thank you. All right, okay, here we go. Open mic time. Okay, our first 3 readers are X Rivera, Woody, I can't read, Long, maybe? Lang, okay. I'm blind Sal. Okay.
That's my handwriting.
All right, so we got X Rivera, Woody Long, and did the person who's in 3rd place scratch their name out? Okay, because I was about to say, wow, that is some handwriting I've never seen before. All right. Now, before I move on and make you make number 4 number 3, you sure you don't want to change your mind? And
I forgot. I forgot my key. So.
Okay, you know, I've had nightmares about that too, so I feel you. Okay, so number 3 will be Michael Hallow. So X, Woody, and Michael.
So I prepared 3 poems for tonight. I am almost 2 months into writing a daily poem, and this last month I've been writing a lot about breakups. This is 3 of the 18 breakup poems I've written since the start of February, and it is the 27th, y'all. So this first one is called The Night You Murdered Us. The night you murdered us, I never saw it coming. Your hands' blades, freshly sharpened, hidden out of lens. Your soft cheeks decorated in tears, words trapped and groggy in your throat. And I promised you could tell me anything. I'm warning you, you said. This is really going to fucking hurt. Tears pour down my own face, questions flutter in my mind. Are you breaking up with me? You were supposed to say no. That's not it, but you did something terrible, and I'll never forgive you. Or you have a favor to ask that will be really hard, but I'd do anything for you. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, you cry, and you tell me that you love me, as you rip and rip and rip us apart. And I'm picking up the pieces and trying to stop the bleeding and begging you to let me fix them. And I'm watching you throw the engagement rings into the stars, and I'm watching you drown the future we planned together, and I'm watching you cry over the last 3.5 years we shared, and you promise I'll find someone else. And I tell you I only want to be with you. And you say you want to be with me too. And that you love me so much. And that you're so sorry, but you can't. And in a matter of minutes, we are dead, and I am alive, and wish I'd been murdered instead. This next, oh, you can clap if you understand. Yeah. This next one is called Your Sky. Snow falls from the same sky that encompasses us both, except right now, it's not snowing for you, and it's not snowing for me. A winter either too warm or too cold for snow. We fell in love under the same sky, maybe wished under the same stars, cried under the same moon, Maybe the wind that kissed me kissed you before traveling over here. We broke up with you living a day in the future, just like the night I asked you to be my lover. How romantic is that? Exactly 3 years, 184 days, and a few hours later, with you always 8 hours ahead of me in time, never to cross. And I cry under the same sky that I fell in love with you under, the same sky I heard over you under, the same sky that I fell in and out of love under, and I am too anxious to speak to you right now, most likely awake at 1 a.m. on a day in the future, even though we both are sitting alone under the same sky. This last poem, I will say, was inspired by me binge watching Violet Evergarden in my grief. But it's called One Day. One day I will wake up and realize that my limbs are bruised and my body aches and that I've been holding on to a grudge and a fantasy that was never mine to hold. And I will see the rope burns on my hand created by a cut string I wouldn't let go of. One day I will wake up and the denial will be over and I won't be able to act like it's all fine. And I'll have to stop lying to myself, and I will realize that I am in love with the dead. One day I will wake up, and I will not remember your name. I will not think of our time together. I will not notice how my body is healed. I will wake up to a lifetime without you, not just a future without you. Thank you.
I'm Woody. This is kind of a mishmash of scenes here. I wrote a story last semester that I realized in this semester I meant to do something totally different with. I was trying to talk about toxic masculinity through the lens of my 3 years of experience with pest control. It's literally toxin. So this is just 2 scenes that I feel like I'm still going to use in the more speculative nonfiction essay I'm going to write with this. So, yeah. So far the working title is Controlling Pests. No, dude, it's just sitting in there breathing super hard, I said into the phone. Its little eyes keep shooting around, and when it sees me, it just screams. Did you know mice could scream? I sure fucking didn't. I heard a poorly stifled chuckle come from the other end of the line. Well, you got 3 options there, man, my boss, Zach, said. You can put him out of his misery, you can bring him back to me at the office and I'll do it, or you can just leave him there. The other mice will take care of it eventually. But, I mean, if you're going for humane treatment, I wouldn't recommend that last one. I stared at the open trap between my feet. A little brown field mice writhed and wrenched its body in a futile attempt to detach itself from a glue strip. His chest expanded and contracted frantically. He seemed to know if he couldn't escape now, he never would. Adrenaline and fear flashed in his eyes. His entire left side stuck to the floor of his oversized coffin with a firmness that threatened to rip his pelt clean off. I hung up on Zach and one word fell from my mouth. Fuck. I've worked for Bugs Bane Pest Control, that's not the real name, for something like 2.5 years at that point. The company started growing fast after I got there, which meant technicians like me started getting more commercial jobs in addition to the home accounts we were used to. The mill with the mouse was one of the first commercial accounts I had to deal with. The client owned a huge grain mill, and they wanted us to get rid of a mouse problem. The fields surrounding the building stretched something like 30 miles before bleeding into the nearest town, which was like Fielding, Utah. I don't know if you've been out there, but there's nothing. Which meant they provided the most convenient source of food for every mouse in that area, and this genius bought himself a guarantee. Bugs Bane had sent another tech a few days before me to set up the traps, so my job was simply to empty and rebait each one. I counted 40 traps as I trudged through the mud-caked terrain surrounding the rusty buildings. Each weighted plastic box featured a floor lined with glue strips, at the center of which rested 2 sugar-coated, pheromone-laced, and poisoned bricks. Every box served as a grave for at least one creature, which meant I had about 80 glue strips and somewhere between 60 and 80 blocks of decon to replace before I could leave. That meant hauling 2 large buckets, one with decon to refresh the traps, and another to store the dead mice, and used glue strips as I circled the mill. The repetitive task of ripping out paper lined with decaying mice lulled me into a trance until I happened upon that one box. I had a hard time making choices like those back then. On normal mouse jobs, you just put bait in a box. The mice do all the work for you. They eat the poison, they leave, then they go die elsewhere. To Since food items were involved with the mouse mill, we couldn't risk the mice dying inside the grain, hence the glue strips. I hadn't even considered the possibility that it might happen across a live one. And the second scene is just a totally separate appointment. I found myself before the taped-up door. I donned my respirator and protective bee suit. Breathing fumes from the spray or Delta test I was about to use was so dangerous the manufacturer had to staple a packet to their bottles just to make them legal. I crossed the threshold and closed the door behind me. Then the owner of the house taped me in the room. My next actions would likely fill the closet with tiny monsters, so I simply stood there for a few minutes in relative silence. I listened to the quiet, seemingly distant hum of the hornet nest and the ripping of tape as my tomb closed behind me. A muffled, "All right, partner, good luck," came from the other side of the door, signaling the start of my battle. Quick and fast, like a Band-Aid. I took the box of Christmas ornaments in both hands and pulled. It ripped away the bottom of a hornet's nest, which had fused onto the top of the box like a congealed placenta. Immediately, the room filled with buzzing, and my entire field of vision gave way to a blur of black and yellow. I found myself at the center of a hurricane of alien monsters. Tens of them attached to my face shield and thrust their spikes into the mesh in a kill-or-be-killed gambit to protect their family. I pressed down on the top of my spray can, firing poison gas into the enclosed space. They started to drop by the hundreds. It wasn't until the buzzing had mostly stopped that I saw him. One hyper-determined, rage-fueled, revenge-hungry hornet found his way into my suit. It floated centimeters away from my face. What had once kept me safe now made me a prisoner. I couldn't scream, I couldn't swat him away. We just stared at each other for a moment before I ripped the door open, slid out of the closet, and threw the helmet of my suit to the ground. He only hesitated for a few seconds, but that was enough. With one more spurt of 5.65, I killed him. By the time the last hornet fell, I'd used up most of the can. I spent the rest of the next 2 hours ripping the hive out of the man's ceiling with a hand rake and putting it, as well as thousands of dead, into a hefty bag to carry away. I couldn't help but notice the stains left on the wood and ceiling. Larvae left trails of yellow and red filth wherever they ground into the surrounding plaster. I must have taken something like 5,000 lives.
Hello, everyone. I brought a couple poems, and I feel I needed a little backstory to bring it into context, so I wrote another story. The first story is called Poets and Fence Posts. There is a phrase in indigenous cultures called a hollow bone, most often referred to as a state of being with regards to a shaman or a medicine person, a free and open channel for the Great Spirit, Earth Mother, or one's helping spirits to flow through, facilitate healing, or give messages to a person or a tribe. It is my belief that a similar type or state of being once gripped particular individuals who were called poets, storytellers of old, writing and orating what the gods and goddesses or the soul desired to blow through them, gripping them with affect to write or speak. Hollow bones and poets. Like bones that come from a specific creature with a specific nature, poets each have a specific style of expression that channels the divine breath, giving form to the grip of inspiration. Poetry is like that for me, and it most always happens whenever another fence post needs to be driven in along the path, the journey of the soul. Fence post and fence along one's path is like marking it, establishing it, the experiences of it, reflected in the series of fence posts, stretching back to where one began. Each of these poems in this collection, in my crash pack, is like a fence post. Poems I was gripped by and moved to write with much force and feeling, like being hit with a post hole driver, driving me inward, grounding me, anchoring the experience. The following two poems, like two fence posts, were written very close together, about a week apart in the fall of 2006, with very deep affect as the terrain was very hard. I recently moved here from a dream job in North Carolina that had disintegrated within a year. This journey began in Southern California, moving to North Carolina and then to Logan, Utah. This would be my third attempt in 18 months to recreate a successful racing facility like the one I started in Northern California in 1995. Then living on my own with my wife and my son still living in California, the stress of everything finally gripped me. The soul expresses itself in the following poems. This section in the fence is called The Emergence of the Wolf. The first poem is called Fruit of Peace. I find myself once again standing on the eve of yet another quest, beginning the voyage of yet another test. I have been running so hard, been running for so long, so close to the end of the rainbow, only to find myself standing on the edge of yet another gorge, separating me from the oasis of rest. Why can I not settle for less, grow accustomed to the way of mediocrity? Why must I carry the sword of Lancelot and fight the true fight of virtue? Risking my own reputation, risking all I've worked for, all I hold dear, in pursuit of honor and integrity, I follow my heart once again. I have walked through yet another door, leaving my present security, in pursuit of the dream, the grander vision that pushes me on the hard road, the path of true expression at the high cost of my effort. Is life but a land of illusion? Doors with mirrors and mirrors with doors? Shifting sand and elusive rainbows? Traveling down the river of life, filled with false hope, the fruits of strife? What manner of man am I, to seek that which is pure and undefiled, to produce fruits of the heart, artful expressions of the creature, for the sole purpose of creating beauty for the eyes of the blind beholder? Have I lost my mind, or long since gone insane? Will I ever find myself again in search of the fruit of life, that I may one day taste the sweet nectar of peace? This next one is my signature poem. It's called Lobo. Stare into the eyes of the Lobo. Stare into the eyes of me. Look with me in the mirror and tell me what you see. Shall we go dancing together, all for the world to see? A vertigo dance of confusion, battered hearts soon washed out to sea. Oh, wherefore art thou, Romeo? The innocent heart doth plead, passion and pain intertwined, to be or not to be. So easy to say I love you and lustful passion be, until it turns to gravel, innocence no longer free. In divorce there is no winner, man's exception to become free. It's not what God intended, but we're fallen, don't you see? Oh, where art thou, Father in heaven? Help me walk, for I cannot see, past my own selfish endeavors, trying to be the best that I can be. Stumble and fall, I soon fall again. I stand with bloody knees, scars of my own judgment, trading patience for expediency. Where do you run now, Lobo? To run until you're free? You know no freedom awaits you until you rest in eternity. Praise God for the grace of the Savior. From the fate that was destined to be, try as we might, we still fall short of the glory we yearn to see. Thank you.
That was an awesome way to begin, you guys. Okay, next we have Ronald Jensen, Edmund Porter, and Jan Uros.
We go together. You know the sign? That's my number one hand. You're the one. I got to step my face. I'm your jack. You're my tail. I'll be there. You can count it out. I'm the bed, and you're the jam. That's the credit to me, as I am. Yes, we go together, like close in the cage. And Daddy said yes to me and Maze. Daddy and Clint. Killing $2. And why the man was named Daly, and the other's Clint. Love them both. Just not my own. Just tell my best to make it known. I want to be a good influence in their life. When I make a mother my wife, I want to be as good as friends can be. My sweethearts go, Claude and Harry. Thank you.
Moving day. Light crept past the vertical blinds and stole across my face. I shot up in bed and checked my watch. It's 7:15, I said, shaking my wife awake. The movers are supposed to be here at 8. Oh no, my wife said, throwing off the covers and jumping out of bed. She headed for the bathroom and flipped the light switch. Nothing happened. The power's out, she called. That explains why the alarm didn't go off. I'll get in the shower, she said. Only if you want a cold one. I pulled on my jeans and t-shirt. My wife turned from the bathroom and dressed. She went downstairs and woke our daughters, 13 and 10. I roused the boys from under their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bedspreads. We let the baby daughter sleep a little longer. The 4 children stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from their eyes. A half-gallon of milk and a box of cold cereal sat in the center of the table. My wife placed paper bowls and white plastic spoons in front of us, and we served ourselves, except for our younger son, who was almost 3. When everyone was done eating, I said, "It's moving day. Let's get a move on it." The 3 older children groaned, and my wife glared at me. I started loading household items into the minivan and pickup while my wife helped the children get dressed and woke the baby. With the girls tending to the baby and keeping an eye on the boys, my wife joined me. It didn't take long to finish loading the personal items we didn't want loaded into the moving van. It was 2 hours past the time the movers were supposed to arrive before the green and yellow Mayflower truck pulled up in front of the house. "Sorry we're late," the driver said as he climbed down from the cab. "We got a late start because of the power outage." "The power was out in Pocatello too?" I asked. "Yes, the whole western grid is down due to the earthquake in California. But it's okay, we don't need power to pack and load. Just show us where to start." It was an exceptionally warm day for January, and we soon shed our coats as we helped the movers. At 1 o'clock, while the movers continued to load the truck, we ate sandwiches in the garage. Our 7-year-old son gobbled his sandwich and ran to the pale blue Dodge Caravan. Pulling open the door, he crawled in and began turning the steering wheel back and forth, pretending to drive. I smiled. Ah, the innocence of youth. I returned to my sandwich. When we finished eating, the movers were sliding the last of our belongings into the moving van. "I think that's all. Let's take a walk through to be sure we didn't miss anything," the driver said. After touring the house, we agreed that everything was loaded. The movers climbed into the truck and drove away. "Take a last look at the house," I said as the family gathered on the sidewalk. It was mid-afternoon. There was plenty of time to make it to Baker City, Oregon, the midpoint of our trip. I strapped the baby into her car seat while my wife buckled everyone else. When my wife slipped into the driver's seat, I got into the pickup and started the engine, waiting for her to pull out. The minivan didn't move. Curious, I got out and walked over. "The key won't turn," my wife said as I approached. "Let me try." She stepped out and I slid behind the wheel. I jerked the steering wheel back and forth and cursed under my breath. The key still refused to turn. I need to call someone, I said, barely containing my frustration. How are you going to do that, she asked. The line hasn't been disconnected yet. See if you can find the phone. My wife rummaged through the boxes in the back of the minivan until she found the beige Princess phone. I took it from her, stormed into the house, plugged in the phone, and called the Dodge dealership. I fumed for an hour until the tow truck arrived and hauled the caravan to the shop. There was no way we'd make it to Baker City that day, so I called corporate travel. They canceled the motel reservation and arranged for 2 rooms at the Burley Inn. With only the Ford Ranger for transportation, it took 3 trips to shuttle everyone across town. When the Dodge dealership opened in the morning, I was on the motel phone pestering the service manager. Look, our schedule is tight. Closing on our house in Washington is set for noon tomorrow. He sounded sympathetic, but it seemed forever before he called back to tell me that they had replaced the ignition tumbler. My wife and I went to the dealer and picked up the minivan. We were on our way. Not having the luxury of an intermediate stop, we drove straight through. I parked the pickup in the front of the house in Zillow, Washington, and we all got in the minivan and drove on to Yakima, where we spent another night in the motel. The next day, my wife and I left the kids at the motel eating pizza while we signed the papers on the house. With the house key in hand, we drove to Zillow and spent the night in our new home amidst packing boxes. I thought that was the end of the story. But as is usually the case, the truth eventually came out. At a family gathering years later, our older son confessed that while playing in the van
No.
that long ago day, he found a paperclip and wanted to see what would happen if he stuck it in the ignition. He found out in 1994. The rest of us found out 23 years later.
Hello. My piece is entitled, Welcome to the Club. When I first heard the news that you'd be eligible for membership, I thought I might want to reach out to you. But then I thought better of it. Sometimes anonymity is best under these circumstances. After all, I didn't really know the circumstances that made you eligible. Are you angry, scared, shamed, bitter, better off? I have no details. When I was first a member, I wanted to run and hide under the covers somewhere, or have the earth swallow me up whole. I certainly did not want to associate with other members. So because of my personal experience, I decided not to contact you. But I've been thinking of you and wondering how you're doing. Are you able to cope? Have you gone on with your life as before? Can you see hope in the future? You see, it is the most exclusive club. Once you are a member, you will always be a member, whether you want to or not. There's no escaping, no opting out, and no one wants to be a member. I thought you might be needing comfort to understand that you did nothing wrong to become a member of this club. How are you dealing with day-to-day activities? Do you need a sympathetic hand to guide you? Do you need someone to listen to you? Do you need counseling? Do you need to vent? Are your financial affairs in order? Do you have a support system you can turn to? What is this club? There are all types in this club: poor, rich, fat, thin, young, old, happy, sad, healthy, sick. Are there dues to pay? There are, but not financial ones. Can a person quit the club? No, it is not an option. Does the club meet regularly? That depends on the individual member and how she wishes to move forward. Again, what is this club? It is the club for women whose partners have cheated on them. In my opinion, the ultimate betrayal. When you put 100% trust in a person and a relationship and then have it blow up in your face, It is beyond comprehension. Too many women are added to this club every second. And to end this, I have to quote Groucho Marx, a 20th century comedian. I don't want to belong to any club that will accept me as a member.
All right, everybody, we have 2 more readers tonight, and I hope I get this right. I think it's Dennis. I always get Dennis and Denise mixed up. I don't know why, so I hope it's Dennis, but anyway. And then Teresa.
That's Denise.
It is Denise? I'll never get that right.
You had a 50-50 shot.
I'll never get that right, you guys. Yes?
Is
there
still time to sign up?
Yeah, we have a little bit of time.
Okay. Can I just come right now?
Yeah, you'll just come right after Teresa.
You'll just be last. Thank you.
Yeah, just follow Teresa.
Say your name when you get up there. So
Yeah,
people know. Okay.
yeah, it's all good.
Thanks,
We're flexible here.
It's really easy to say Dennis when it's spelled Dennis with an E, thanks to my mom. God only knows why parents do that to their children. Let's just have the phonetic spelling the way it's supposed to be. Life would be so much easier.
Tell us what you really feel.
Okay, I have 4 poems for you. Okay, this one's called Deluge. Last night I fell apart. I succumbed to the tsunami of sorrow I had been suppressing for days. My resistance worn thin from the great effort it took to hold it back. The force of it knocked me to my knees. My heart fractured and broke. The shards of its armor scattered across the dirty, icy drive. Face down in the frigid dark, I knelt in the gravel and wept. I wept for everything. I wept for everyone. I wept until I was empty, until my gulping breath subsided, until I was back in my body, held gently by gravity. Overhead, in the black velvet night, stars sparkled reassuringly as planets aligned. This is called To Be Held. Some days when you wake, the sense of gravity is strong. With the weight of its hand upon your heart, it whispers, stay close. This doesn't make your limbs heavy or your heart anxious. It is not a warning to be fearful. Rather, it is a request asking you to pay attention, to pause and listen to your deepest wisdom, to the voice that you feel more than hear, to the one that says, today, do less whenever you can, and be pleased with whatever you get done. It will be enough. All day, gravity holds you in cupped palms. Let calmness rise up through the soles of your feet. This is called, I guess, can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Before morning, I step out into the dark yard, shivering in the embrace of Arctic air. In this darkness, there is no dividing horizon, no silhouettes of separateness. The darkness is complete. It is infinitely still, infinitely whole. I loosen my edges and soften. Into the frozen fullness, each exhale instantly crystallizes. Overhead, small splinters of ancient star bodies shine. I wonder at all the ways this day will break. How will I meet the breaking? With wonder, with worry, or desire to repair? How will I receive each precious shard? As a seed for sorrow, or as a possibility of prayer? And I actually sent Valentine's this year. I went to Smith's and bought some goofy, kid-like Valentines, and I sent them to a bunch of friends, and I wrote this poem and sent it with the Valentine. It's called Propagate Love. If your heart is whole and healthy, nourish it to its fullest abundance until its hearty affection is ever ready to harvest. Gift bouquets of blossom to those who need beauty.
Plant pieces of robust roots wherever they are needed. Offer fruits to those who are tired and hungry. If your heart is cracked and fragmented, let it break and fall apart. Each fraction still holds a portion of love. Let the shards be seeds to share. Give them to strangers through generous gestures. Plant them in a friend's fallow field. Offer them to the world through hope and well wishes. Thank you.
I know how you feel, Denise, when people pronounce your name wrong. My name's Teresa. Well, I have the good fortune of having been a member of the Union of Table Scraps at the beginning, and I didn't move away, so I don't know what my excuse is, but that means, as Naomi mentioned earlier, there was a whole list of possible names, and if Brock doesn't mind, I found the list, and I would like to read those potential names for the Union of Table Scraps before that was decided upon. And buckle up, because Union of Table Scraps is number 22 on the list, and it's not the end. So here are the names of what could have been the featured reader tonight, submitted for group approval by Brock the Chair years ago. Possible poetry group names. 1, Critical Race Theory. I'm going to try not to editorialize too much, but that feels interesting given what Brock read. 2, Poetry at 6. 3, Poetry Whenever. There's a couple that only make sense if you remember that Star wasn't a part of this group. 4, Poetry Without Star. 5, Aaron's Poetry Group. 6, Isaac's Poetry Group. 7, I truly can't tell if it's Al or AI, but it could have been very prescient. AI. 8, ABBA's It, or ABBA, comma, Sit. And then in parentheses it says, our initials, for all the people in the group. 9, Poetry Palaver. 10, The One. 11, The Outlaws. 12, The Outsiders. 13, The Ne'er-Do-Wells. 14, The Survivors. 15, The Kennel. 16, Choose the Left. CTL. 17, The Diagonals. 18, Festian Bulbous. I'm really upset that we weren't Festian Bulbous. 19, The Gentiles. Oh no, wait, new favorite. 20, Squanto and the Pilgrims. We are the whitest poetry group in America. 21, Aaron's A-List. 22, Union of Table Scraps. There it is. There's 10 more, stay with me. 23, The Revisers. 24, Poets Anonymous. 25, The Painful Rectal Itch Society. And then in parentheses he specifies, from SNL. 26, The Ents. Ent, like the tree guys in Lord of the Rings. 27, The Group. 28, PG. Just the letters. 29, Reptilicus. That might be my new favorite. 30, Socialist Poetry Cooperative. Yeah. And then the last two I think are just movie titles. 31, The Magnificent Seven. And 32, The Replacements. That's all. I know I have that list somewhere.
Hello. My name is Erin, and I did not sign up on time because I host a weekly craft and chat upstairs that goes from 6 to 7. So if anyone wants to come to that, it's every Thursday, 6 to 7, upstairs.
All right.
Anyway, just gotta advertise myself.
Hell yeah, you do.
I'll read a couple of my favorite poems that I've written. First is, If God is Kind. If God is kind, one day he will kneel on knees shattered and pained. He will bend to the floor with a broken back once holding the universe. His forehead will fall with anguish from a headache of voices. His hands will hang from the shimmering heavens, fingers mirrored and pressed knuckle for knuckle, and he will pray for release. My second poem is called Unfortunately for Women. What am I to you? Am I an incubator, just a womb to grow more men and more baby makers? Is it murder if I die along with the parasite inside? Will you kill me if it dies first? Am I a whole, just something for pleasure that you use till you're full? Is my mouth not for speech but for your release? Why is that not also worthy of death penalty? Am I a number, just one more body to be married to a man? Is my happiness so unimportant you don't care if I'm abused? Will you blame me for that too? Am I a slave, just an unpaid maid and therapist, a teacher and cook? Am I not allowed to have a mind that craves more? Is it unacceptable to want my own life? Unfortunately for women, whatever you say goes. So what am I to you?
Yeah.
And finally, this poem is titled Infested. Every day when I wake up, there are roaches in my mouth. Are they coming in or are they going out? Bile and spit encase their legs and saturate their wings. With the grace of dying moths, they fall like raindrops to the ground. They eat the food between my teeth and sugar on my lips. They lay their eggs beneath my tongue to hatch in moistened dark. They scratch and crawl throughout my lungs and quest to clog my throat. Like endless vengeful flies, they swarm and squirm to fill my mouth. All day I spit and gag and choke and pray for pestless words. A day when I open my jaw and cleanly breathe a sigh. But still, every morning, there are roaches in my mouth. Are they coming in or are they going out? Thanks for letting me sign up last minute.
Okay, so now is the time where we do announcements. Whoa, sorry, I overexerted on the microphone. I apologize. Now is the time for announcements. Before we get to that, I do want to thank all of our open mic readers. Thank you so much for your powerful words. You guys are awesome. Denise, I totally get it. My government name is Aaron, and it's spelled the male way, so I was constantly called a boy my whole life, so I get it. Our final reader, Aaron, oh, goddamn. Thank you for getting Tim's attention because those were fantastic. So come anytime and read awesome stuff. Okay, 4 announcements. Break out your phones or whatnot because you're going to want to come to these things. All right. Thursday, March 6th at the Merrill-Kazare Library, room 101 on the USU campus will be Andrew Romriel. He will be reading from his book Wolf Act, which was published earlier this month. So you will want to come to that. You'll want to come to it because he's an awesome writer, but also because it will piss off people like Mike Lee. So show up and hear gay stories. And don't let anybody shudder those voices. All right, next announcement is the next Helicon West will be March 13th. It will be Writers Cafe. Yep. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Awesome, I remembered. I'm such a pro. Writers Cafe, which is a group headed by Pam Loosely, who is really, really cool, you guys. I know I say that about everybody, but I mean it. She's awesome. And so her group is probably kick-ass. So definitely come to that. Finally, if you are physically able, help stack chairs. If not, don't worry about it. These guys do it fast, guys, so don't even feel guilty. Like, I don't even help anymore because I'm so slow. So don't even worry about it. All right, thank you for being here. Thank you for, this is an act of rebellion in these times to come and share your art and listen to other people's art. And so thank you very much for coming. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you.